Welcome to episode, I can't believe it, we're at 95 now
Wow.
and we have a very special guest on the Real Estate AI Flash today, Blair Knowles from Ridgeline Real Estate, broker owner in right outside of Burlington, Vermont. Blair, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I wish I had waited around so I could be episode 100, but I'll take 95.
There it is. There it is. Yeah, exactly. You and I briefly connected at the Housing Wire AI Summit in August. And we've been sort of following each other on Instagram, and you've been doing some stuff with AI. And I said, you know what? We should have Blair on the podcast talking about stuff, how she's using AI as well as helping our agents at our brokerage leveraging AI as well. So let's start with I gave you like an elevator pitch introduction for probably a long career. So could you walk us through for the audience your background and how you got into real estate and bring us to today?
Sure. I feel like that's the most uninteresting part, but I'll breeze through it. Well, we can make it interesting and talk about the ex-boyfriends, but I had a sort of fledgling youth. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to school, got a college degree that I wasn't using for anything. Was living in a sort of like a hippie commune in Houston, Texas, we'll call it, and started dating a guy who was a commercial real estate broker. And then after that, I dated a guy who was a house flipper. And in watching that, I realized that it really wasn't rocket science. And I didn't want to go back to college. I hadn't found a lot of value in my college career, which had been in theater, which anybody in the arts knows how employable those careers are. And so I was watching these couple of gentlemen do their stuff, and I thought, I can do this. And the entry point for me was sales. I didn't have the money to be a house flipper. I didn't have the family background that the commercial real estate broker had. His father had a brokerage business in commercial, and I said, well, I can just start with sales. So I started with sales and did what many great agents did and joined a team and was on a team for a couple of years. And then I went solo, and then I hired my first assistant, and then I built my own team, and then I built my own brokerage in 2020. And I've been running that brokerage for 5 years, which brings us to today.
There it is. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. As I have guests on the podcast, it's very interesting to hear their journey into real estate. Everybody's got their, story, and somebody opened the door or you observe something and say, I can do that type of thing,
Mm-hmm.
like in your case. So what was your first like light bulb moment with AI since it was announced like November 2022?
I love when you ask people this on your podcast because I know the exact moment in time. I can tell you where I was sitting. It was like it smashed me in the face. I was reading an article which I'll share with you. It's called AI 2027, and it's an ex OpenAI researcher wrote it, and it's just predictions about how AI is going to integrate with our society. And I really hadn't been paying that much attention, but somebody mentioned this article. It's very dense and very long, but I started reading it and I couldn't stop. And as I got further along into it, just made sense. It was like the predictions felt real. They didn't feel otherworldly. And then as I started to get into 2027, I was like, this is happening and I haven't been paying attention and I need to right now. And it was like sort of, I hope anybody listening to this can be encouraged by the fact that I really didn't start paying attention to AI until early this year. That article came out in April, I think. It was very early April. And since then, though, it's been every spare moment for me. I've got 2 young kids, so it's been every nap time. It's been after I put them to bed at bedtime. It's been every free minute between my brokerage work at work. I just can't stop. I'm addicted, and I'm trying to, I think, play catch up. But you can catch up pretty quickly if you get passionate.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great story. I mean, I'd love to include the link to that article if you can send that to me in the show notes.
Yes,
What's
definitely.
interesting, what's interesting, Blair, is that everybody's got their own light bulb moment. It doesn't matter when you begin, but I do believe that people that get ahead are those that invest time regularly to kind of experiment and have a curiosity mindset and have those unlocks. And the only difference between you and me and many people that are listening are we've just had a few more light bulb moments than others, as to what's possible. And so we're just going on that journey. So that's a good takeaway. I say spend 30 minutes a day just playing with AI, see what's possible, right? And it'll give you a lot of unlocks. So let's kind of dig in. I mean, so tell me a little bit about your brokerage. I know you mentioned how many agents in your brokerage?
We range between around 25 and 30, and that's the size I want to stay. So we're
Yeah.
small, independent, not affiliated with a franchise, really running the local. It almost feels sometimes like a big team the way that we're
Yeah.
structured. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I think, and then it gives you the ability to run fast, adjust, and change, and do stuff. And real estate is hyper local anyway. So let's talk a little bit about your personal use of AI as it relates to work, and even personal stuff is fine too. And then let's kind of move into what are you doing to empower your agents? Because I think when I heard about your background, I wanted to get you on the podcast for a couple of reasons. One, most of the time we have practitioners, agents, team leaders that come to the podcast. Very few times we've had people that sort of run a brokerage and using it personally. So I think you get both perspectives. So I'd love to hear that. Where do we want to start?
Awesome. I think it's a great perspective to look at, because one of the challenges is you learn these tools, you figure out use cases for them, you build something, you get all excited, you finally get all the quirks worked out, and then you're like, wait, how do I actually get other people to pay attention and use this thing I built? Which has been more of a challenge than I expected, like integrating AI across my brokerage. But it's been fun to watch the light bulb moments for my agents when it does compress time on an activity, and then they're suddenly all in and they're like, give me more. But I wrote down a couple of the use cases we're using and tools that I think people might want to hear about. One of my earliest tools was Whisperflow, which I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I personally, and I think a lot of salespeople are like this, I've spent most of my life verbalizing. Like, that's how I communicate. I don't do a ton of sitting behind a computer and typing. And I did more and more as I moved into administration and management and out of sales. But when I was in sales, it was all on the phone. And now this tool, Whisperflow, enables me to write my emails or my text messages with dictation, which of course the Apple iPhone has Siri, but everybody knows that is less than perfect. Whisperflow is almost perfect. It gets it up every time. If you stumble through a sentence, or if you say, I didn't mean to say that, and you go back, it makes the corrections for you. And so I downloaded it on my computer. I just push one button. I primarily use it on desktop. It's not as great on the iPhone because you have to switch it on your keyboard, and just that one little technical moment of having to switch, I just don't do it very much. You also need a really, really good service to use it. But when I'm at my desktop, I almost exclusively use it. I barely ever type anymore. And it has gotten me to respond to more emails, like stuff that I previously would have just left as I'll get back to that later. And it's gotten me to give a lot more context. So I do a lot of lead handoff for kind of cooler leads. And it used to be that I would just forward it and the agent would have to figure it out. But I spent, 2 minutes kind of looking into the lead profile and figuring out who it should go to and why I thought so. And now I can just press one button and I give them a super quick rundown, like, hey, Becky, this one's in Charlotte, and they've looked at price points between 5 and 700,000. They clicked on this one house 5 times, and I really thought it might be a good one for you to reach out to. Whereas before, I never would have spent the time on that because I didn't have it. So it helps me to work almost as fast as I can think. So if you haven't tried it, Whisperflow is awesome. Have you tried that one?
That's awesome. Well, I've heard of it. I've not tried it. So let's double click on Whisperflow a little bit. So is it a paid app?
No, well, okay. Free at first. It has usage limits, which I used it a lot and I didn't hit them for a while, but then I now use it constantly. So I did hit the usage limits, so I started paying for it.
So is it a browser plugin, or is it something you download that integrates to everything you type?
Download and everything you type. So you can, anywhere that you type, you can use it. Facebook.
Right. So,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this could be, I was just going to go there. You could even open up a Google Doc, and you kind of put your thoughts down for stuff. You could just talk to it.
100%.
And you don't have to deal with carpal tunnel with typing on the keyboards. Yeah, this is good stuff. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So Whisper Flow, that's a good takeaway, and I think we're going to start to see, Blair, that there's a lot more AI where voice computing. I believe AI will revolutionize how we do business on a computer with voice.
Yes.
It's just, I mean, I talk to ChatGPT every time I get a chance to it, so it knows me more, and I can go into my custom GPTs and have a conversation and just click the button and see the blue, nice big blue round circle and keep talking.
Yep.
So I think all of the apps are going to be more and more voice friendly. And in your case, it's like dictation, but at the end of the day, it is voice that's transcribing it. And you feel like it does a great job transcription wise, right?
Yeah. And it's how
Yeah.
I write all of my content now too. I just hold my button and I talk, and then I usually run it through an LLM and clean it up, and then I go back and make it my own.
Nice. Cool. So from Whisper Flow, we'll include a link to the show note in the show notes as well for these tools, so you know which one we're talking about. So what's next, Blair, on your AI adoption journey for you or your agents?
There's so much, but I'm trying to figure out for like the listeners what has the highest impact. I started with
Sure.
Whisperflow because it's so easy. I think it's like, you don't need a lot of background in AI to get started with it. Another one that is a recent rollout that I think is very easy to use, even if you have no AI experience, is Nano Banana. I know a lot of people have been playing with that, but it's just so awesome. I've got our realtors using it now for like twilight photos, switching a house from. We used to send a photographer back out at twilight. You'd pay another $125 to $200 to get those 3 photos. And now you'd have to orchestrate it with your sellers. They'd have to put their cars in the garage. They'd have to get the flowers all spruced up, put the kids' toys in the back. Like none of that. No orchestrating schedules, no $200. It's 3 seconds on your computer, and it produces stunning twilight photos. Staging photos. We add like staging to properties, changing the seasonality on properties. So if you took pictures in the early spring in Vermont, we call it mud season. We have a 5th season. Everything looks just gross, but you want to get it on the market. So now you can just say, make it look like it's a summer photo. And it does such a phenomenal job. So I highly recommend people play around with Nano Banana.
Yeah, and for those of you that are listening, if you haven't heard that, that's the newest release from Google on their image generation model. So Gemini, and you'll actually technically see a banana next to the image when you're using this feature on your mobile app or on the web. And I even done twilight photos are great. Sort of virtual staging a little bit for a couple of rooms. You could do that. And I've even taken a picture, actual picture from a photographer of mine, uploaded it, and changed the outfits I was wearing.
Nice.
And it does an amazing job because it keeps your face the same, and it changes your sport jacket, shirt, etc. Whereas ChatGPT struggles with that even today, where it messes up your face.
Yes.
Changes your clothing, but it messes up your face. So Nano Banana is clearly bananas, is what we're saying here. So you should give it a shot. Yeah, for sure. And I'll include a link in the show notes. I did a short video on YouTube about Nano Banana, so if you want to dig into it, you'll have a link. So yeah, so image generation and virtual staging, twilight. There's so many applications for image generation because a picture always tells 1,000 words.
So many. And those are some of the like easy entry use cases that I'm pushing our realtors towards. And then there's things like creating custom GPTs. And this is an interesting one. I've got a couple realtors that are making their own, but as a brokerage owner, one of the cool things with the shareability of these custom GPTs is I've just made a bunch of them and I've shared them with them. And we have like a share folder in our drive that people can go use them, and they save them in their sidebar. So I've been focusing on that. We've got GPTs to do your CMA for you, which I really think you need human in the loop for that one. Like that's why Zillow's estimates, we laugh at them. But I always think about, and this is how I think you should use AI. You think about, what do I hate doing that takes a lot of time? And one of the things that I know our realtors struggle with is prepping for listing appointments. It can take 2-3 hours to prep well for a listing appointment. So I'm saying, okay, how can I help them downsize that? And personally, when I was in sales, I hated extracting the data from the comp and pulling it over to the spreadsheet. And so it's a simple GPT, but all it does is you drop 3 comps and it pulls the data from certain fields. I've trained it on what fields to pull from, and so it uploads to our Excel spreadsheet that they're already used to using. It uploads the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, square feet, garage bays, and it does all the calculations on the Excel spreadsheet, and it puts out an Excel spreadsheet. So if they then want to go in and add additional fields, like maybe they want to adjust the below ground square footage because they feel like it's not super valuable below ground square footage because there's no walkout and it's basically someone just threw down carpet and drywall. They can manually after still make edits. So that's been a fun one.
Yeah, for sure. I think you bring up a good point, Blair. I think if you're an agent that has been fairly proficient on the journey of AI, you got to start looking at things that collapse time, right?
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned repetitive tasks that you do, like you go on a listing appointment, you're going to do that. As long as you're active, you're going to do a lot of that. So look at areas of repetition, time intensive, energy draining. Quite frankly, to your point, I mean, there's
Yeah.
some tasks that you just don't want to do. Keep real estate fun, or make real estate fun again. So and then the third area is data heavy. It does really good with data. AI does really good with data, structured data. So look at areas that you're doing stuff in these areas, and anything that can collapse time. That's when you start to think about building a custom GPT. But use the ones that maybe your brokerage is providing, things that are in the GPT store that you're aware of. And I've built several. Like you've built a few for your agents. So start thinking on those lines where you can collapse time. So that's a good takeaway right there.
It's a tricky one for me though, because I don't know if I feel like the average realtor should spend a bunch of time building GPTs. I'm still torn on that one. Like I'm currently in the phase of
get it.
let me build them for you. I've given them we've done a couple trainings at our brokerage on how to do it, but sometimes the more complex ones can take a little while to build. And I don't know that it's really worth it for them. So like in recommending like what realtors should be focusing on in AI, I'm not sure building GPTs at the top of the list for me. I do think one that's at the top of the list, we had chatted about this previously, is just understanding AEO, GEO, and starting to optimize their bios and their online presence to be found when people type into ChatGPT or another LLM, who's the best agent in my city to help me sell my home.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get into that here next, because I think that's a very timely topic. So I agree with you. I think most people should not be building custom GPTs. I think the only people that fall into that category are people that are maybe running brokerages to share that type of build with a lot of people, or team leaders that are savvy enough to do it for their agents. But solo agents are probably better off looking at other areas to optimize and leveraging things that are already built for it. Because to your point, anybody can build a GPT, but to build a good GPT, it takes a little effort. So let's get into this whole notion of SEO, which is search engine optimization. When just to kind of level set the question I'm going to ask you for the audience. People are now going to AI solutions like ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever you're using, and asking the same question they were going to ask on Google in the past. And some techniques across the board apply to whether it is SEO or what they're calling it GEO, generative engine optimization, answer engine. There's several names for this, but the idea is people are going to ChatGPT and asking the question. And that's where you want to be found. There's some techniques that Blair's going to get into as to what she's doing. I also built a custom GPT to help people optimize their bio to be found. And it's more a foundational element. That's not the reason you get found, but that's a starting point. But let's talk about that, Blair, and let's finish with that thought.
Okay. It's interesting. Any training you take on this, basically the answer to how do I get found on ChatGPT is go ask ChatGPT that question and see what sources it cites. So like if you say, who's the best realtor, for example, my city, to sell a home in Burlington, Vermont, or I'm in like a little suburb of Burlington called Williston, you then see who it produces, but not only who it produces, but what sources it's citing. And you'll see a pattern of the sources it's citing over and over again are, they're like structure sites. So agentic search, like ChatGPT, loves lists. So these different lists that have been out there for a long time, like Fast Expert ranks agents, Zillow ranks agents, Yelp has like a top 10 agents in city name page for different cities across America. ChatGPT loves those. But there's other things too. You know, it's like sometimes it can feel overwhelming to get listed on those sites. To give you guys a little bit of hope, our brokerages, we're independent. We've got 25 agents. We compete in a marketplace where there's larger franchises that have 100, 200 agents in the franchise. So if it's all about volume and numbers and list ranking, we would never show up. But I ran that search in July and we didn't show up anywhere. And then I ran it again for a training I was teaching at my brokerage on September 3rd, last week. And we were in the top. It usually gives you like 5 choices. And every time you search, it's different. You know, if you ask the same question immediately after, it will produce different results, but there's a pattern. And we showed up every single time. And I just made small tweaks between July and now. And the couple of different things that we did was I updated our brokerage profile on sites like Fast Expert, realestateagents.com. I optimized our bio, search engines or agent engines like GPT, the LLMs. They love authoritative language. Definitely get Rajeev's bio optimizer, because just by optimizing your bio can go a long way. Your bio could include things like it loves specific data, number of sales you've done in your lifetime, your average price point. It loves those kind of like key metrics that it can cling on to, because it says this is authoritative. And then the other big thing we did was we added an FAQ section to our main homepage. Loves answers and questions. I guess it's just easy for these agents to crawl, answer and question and answer. So we just put on like, who's the best agent to help me sell my home? We're the best agent. Here's why. I mean, I hid these FAQs at the bottom of our homepage because they're embarrassing, because like the answers are so dry. But between putting those on our homepage, tweaking our bios and a couple ranking sites, and making sure all of our numbers and stats were on our ranking sites, we went from not showing up to always showing up. So the other thing that blows my mind about this agentic search and AEO, GEO, as opposed to SEO, is how easy it is to tweak. You know, you think about SEO, if someone goes to Google and types in who's the best agent to sell my home in Burlington, Vermont, the number of people competing for that space, the number of companies, the number of dollars being spent, you know, Zillow pops up, Redfin pops up, Trulia pops up, and you better believe those companies have multiple people on staff that their entire full-time job, 40 hours a week, and a huge budget is going into work and making them show up. So you can't compete there. But you go over to GPT and you make a couple of tweaks, and like currently you can compete, and more people are starting to search with agents than are searching with SEO. SEO still, Google, Bing still has the lion's share of search, but I know that that's going to change. So I really encourage realtors to get ahead of and pay attention to. I have a little guide. It's it's more detailed than what I just went into on like how you can rank well, which I'm happy to share with you, and you can put in the show notes if anybody wants those.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple of things. I think you touched on a couple of very key takeaways. One is anyone can do this.
Yes.
Okay, you don't need to hire an SEO expert to do this. And to your point, I mean, when I built that bio optimizer GPT, I've realized AI engines are looking at solutions like Fast Expert you mentioned, but some of the agents listening, most of the agents listening don't even have a bio on Fast Expert. And the reason it looks at Fast Expert is US News and World Report uses Fast Expert for agent rankings. So there's a lot of things that are connected there. And then the other piece that I found out is AI engines can't read they don't know that you have 100 reviews on Google. Okay, they know that
I
they
tell
can.
it. I have 100 reviews on Google.
Right, exactly. So the bio optimizer just walks you through. Tell me your production. Tell me how many reviews you have online, and it just rewrites your bio, short form, long form, medium form, that includes those metrics that are signals to AI engines to potentially show you, like you talked about. And I think another big takeaway that you mentioned was the FAQs. I think these are consumer questions that are being asked, and you're actually directly answering that question with an FAQ. And I think that's really why you're getting the lift that you're getting. So kudos to you. So good stuff there. And we'll include a link to how to do it, Blair's doc in the show notes. Thank you for sharing that. So let me get to the last couple of questions. Blair, anything else you want to add on AI? Anything?
Oh, I could go forever, but I love that you
we
keep
should
your
go forever.
episodes short. It's one reason that I'm a big fan is you can get it done on your commute to work, and feel accomplished
is.
when you
Yeah,
learn
yeah.
something.
For sure. So you've been in real estate how long now, Blair?
About 10 years. I'm going on 11.
10 years. Okay. So if you had to give advice to your younger self or anyone listening, what is the one piece of advice, AI or non-AI, doesn't matter, that you feel would make a noticeable difference in people's careers?
I love this question because you go so techie and AI, and then you bring it back to the human, which is awesome. I had to think about this one. I'm glad you sent questions in advance because otherwise I think I would have fumbled here. But I would tell my younger self to start sooner. I sort of talked about like my fledgling youth. I got into real estate at 26, which isn't that old, but there was this whole period of time between graduating high school and going through college where I don't feel like I was really moving the needle on my life much at all. And maybe that's what that time of life is for. I don't know. But a big part of me wonders, what could I have done if I started 10 years sooner? Because there's no reason I couldn't have in this career. So I love when people come to our brokerage and want to get started and they're in their early 20s, because I'm just all about that. Because it's the compound effect of what you can do. The other thing I would say is don't live somebody else's life. So I mentioned the boyfriends, in those early years, I think I was like a hanger-oner. I was sort of watching everybody else big stuff. Build big stuff. I wanted to be near the action. I liked impressive and successful people, but I wasn't doing anything. And like the road to success is never hanging on to what other people are doing. You got to go figure out what your thing is and how you want to build it. And it's one reason that I love real estate, because if you have the passion and you have the drive, it's such a cool career. It can be a vehicle for your success. Nobody puts a ceiling on you in real estate. You don't have to wait for the promotion. You don't have to wait for someone to find you interesting or exciting. You just go build. And then my last two things would be to invest in real estate. My husband and I did before I met my husband, and then together we both, if you're in this career, you have legs up in this career. You understand the markets, you see opportunities. So put some of that paycheck towards investing in real estate. We don't have 401ks. There's no retirement plan in real estate. So maybe start with a duplex and then get some rental properties. And then lastly, leverage faster. So I leveraged pretty quickly, honestly, but I wish I had done it even faster. I used to see leverage as like a dirty word, like I'm going to give somebody the job that I don't like to do and they're going to just do it for me. But my mind changed over the years on that to I'm going to give what I'm not talented at and what I don't like to do to somebody who loves doing that job. So I wish I had leveraged even faster.
No. Great takeaways there. I think, if you don't delegate, you tend to stagnate. Do what you're best at and then leave the rest to the other professionals. So final question. I don't know if you're a book or a podcast person, Blair.
Both, but in my current stage of life, definitely podcast, because there's just children all the time. And so if I'm going to be learning, it's usually in small chunks.
So give me your go-to or a podcast that has made a big difference in shaping who you are.
For shaping who I am, I would definitely say Bigger Pockets, which is a real estate investing podcast. I honestly, in my early career, wasn't excited about real estate sales. I did it. It was a means to an end. It was a vehicle for me. But I would listen to this Bigger Pockets podcast about investing every morning on my drive in, because that sort of like was the bigger vision that would pull me through of wanting this passive income in my life. I think everyone should be listening to something that is a bigger vision that gets them excited. My days are totally different if I listen to, and now it's AI. I'm all excited about what we can do as a profession with AI. But there's a total difference in my day if I listen to this kind of intake of content on my way to work and if I don't. I love getting excited by listening to podcasts. I can't just have one, right? So I love Bigger Pockets, but of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I'm sure that gets mentioned all the time, by Robert Kiyosaki. It was a book that changed my life. going way back, Winning Friends and Influencing People by Dale
Oh
Carnegie.
yeah,
I
Carnegie.
still think it's the best book out there for understanding and working with people, which is what we do. Um, and then last one,
Fantastic.
because I'm passionate about these people in their 20s, because that's when my life changed drastically. There's a book called The Defining Decade. It's by a
Mm.
woman who works with, she's a psychologist for people in their 20s and 30s, and she hears all of the regrets. And so the defining decade, she just talks about how really you set up most of your life in your 20s, and it's a really cool book.
Nice, nice. Good. Well, this has been fun, Blair. We could talk all day with AI stuff. So
Yeah.
we will. One of the things that I'd like to kind of wrap up with is we'll include all the links to Blair's resources, stuff that we talked about in the show notes, and her social handles. So give her a follow. And if you need someone in Burlington, Vermont, or surrounding areas to take care of your clients, make sure you reach out to Blair. Blair, this has been fun, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you in person again real
Yes.
soon.
Thank you. Loved being here.